Hello everyone, welcome to our special episode today. We'll be doing a little bit different than what we usually does. We're gonna be cooking Japchae today, Korean glass noodle. I actually taught a cooking class on this recipe about 2 years ago, so I know a thing or two about cooking this recipe. Anyway, let's go shopping! Here I am undercover shopping at this local store in Sandy called Ocean Mark. They have everything I need here, so let's go! As you can see, they got all the special posted right by the door when you first walk in. And they got a food court right here that you can order pastries and different Chinese food for like a quick grab and go. The store is pretty big, so if you ever get lost or not finding what you need, just ask anyone of the staff. They got plenty of staff here, as you can see here. Our first stop is the produce section. We got plenty of stuff to get here, so bear with me. Our first ingredient is the mushroom. There's the white mushroom and the shiitake mushroom. Put them in my cart. Get some garlic too. Garlic is an important ingredient in Korean cooking. We need plenty of garlic. Here's some Asian onion, green onion, and then some Western onion. They got both. I'm gonna go with the yellow onion. Not too sweet, not too bitter. Get some carrot. These are baked carrots, perfect for our meal. For spinach, I like to use the Taiwan spinach. They usually turn out the best for Korean dishes. Just don't use baby spinach. They're a little bit too bitter for this recipe. Don't forget the red pepper. They add another layer of the coloring to the dish as well. Onto the meat section. Skip this part if you're cooking the vegetarian version. Go back to the veggie section and get more shiitake mushroom if you're just cooking the vegetarian today. Mainly they sell meat for shabu on hot pots. The great thing about these meat is they are slightly thinly. We don't want to use the one that's too fatty. So the one I'm going with today is the beef ribeye slice. Now we can't forget the star of the show, the glass noodle. There's a lot to choose from, so you might get a little confused. Mainly there are the Chinese made one and the Korean made one. Go with the Korean one. The cooking method is the same regardless which brand you get. Now I'm gonna go get the Costco size glass noodle today. This big pack. I can't forget the sauce. That's what gives us the coloring. Most important sauce of this recipe is soy sauce. There's a lot to choose from. If you feel like splurging, try the Maggi brand. Otherwise, the Asi brand is great for Korean cooking too. And there's also the other Chinese brand you can try as well. I recommend this gluten-free soy sauce one for anyone with celiac disease. All these other ones work just as well. While we're at this aisle, let's grab the sesame oil as well. It's one of the most important ingredients for Korean cooking. They also have other cooking oil here which we'll need, but any cooking oil is fine. I usually use MCT oil, which they don't sell here. On to the last portion of the seasoning, which can be found in this aisle. This store is huge, so it took me a while to find it. Here we got some sugar. Sugar is optional for this recipe. Salt, any salt works just as fine, from sea salt to regular salt. Sesame. So get the toasted sesame. You don't want extra work. Otherwise you can get their untoasted sesame and toast them yourself. That requires additional work, so it's up to you. And they got some eggs here if you forgot. I found the price to be actually cheaper than most American stores. Checkout's pretty streamless. Let's see how much we spent today. Okay, quickly load the stuff in my trunk and off we go. Let's get cooking. Here are the ingredients. See the full list from the description. And we're back. Let's get cooking. First thing you want to do is start boiling a pot of water and then wait for it to boil while you do other prep work. Place in the bowl, add 1 minced garlic clove and then 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. Optional, you can add 1 teaspoon of sugar, but I'm gonna skip it. 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, a handful of ground black pepper. Now add about 4 ounces of beef. These all have been pre-sliced at the store to very thin slices. They're perfect for bulgogi. That's the consistency we're looking for here. After you add the beef, mix the beef with the sauce until it looks kind of like this. Soak the shiitake mushroom in the water. In a separate bowl, mix 2 minced garlic, 4 tablespoons of soy sauce, add 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. As optional, you can add 1 tablespoon of sugar too, but I skip it here. Lastly, add a handful of ground pepper. Check on the water that you started boiling. It should be boiling by now. Turn up the heat to simmering and then add the spinach inside. Pick up any runners and make sure they're submerged under the water. Close the lid. Blanch the spinach for about a minute. And when you take it out, immediately put them in ice water. We're gonna use this bamboo sushi roller thing to squeeze the excess water from the spinaches. Don't squeeze it too hard or you're gonna destroy the spinach. Give it a feel like gentle squeeze and the water should come out right away. Put the spinach back on the chopping board. We're gonna cut them about a ½ inch size. Place the spinach in a bowl like this. Add 1 minced garlic clove. Add a teaspoon of salt. Then add a teaspoon of sesame oil. Gently mix them together and keep them in a collection bowl. As for the white mushroom, slice them in 4, like this. Good way to do it is lay them upside down and slice them in 4 chunks. There's really no correct way to slicing veggie, just do it however you like it. Just make sure they don't get sliced too big. Kind of slice the veggie to your preference. There's really no correct way to slice them. So for shiitake mushroom, you slice it the same way in 4 once you flip it upside down. But the difference is you would have to remove the stem first. So gently rip it out with your hand. Don't do it too rough or else you will damage the mushroom. So you want just rip out the stem and then you slice it like that. The process I generally follow is to rip up all of them first, then I can just slice them all at once. You can do it however you want, but just remember to rip out the stem first before you slide off the mushroom cap part. As you recall, I had a lot of extra spinach cooked up earlier. My intent is use part of it for this dish, and the extra spinach I can make banchan out of it, which are Korean side dish that can be eaten cold, and you can store them in the fridge for a couple of days as well. So my friend Jenny loves onion, that's why I got extra onion just for her. So the very bottom part is very hard to eat. What I do is cut them up and you would smash it with your knife, kind of flatten a little bit so they can be easier to consume. And then you just cut them a little chunk and then slice them in little pieces. Up to you. Some people like the longer pieces. I like to dice them a little bit. Either way, they cook fine. So as for the western onion, I use the Japanese method of slicing it like a fan. Make sure you don't cut the root part first or else you start crying. So you want to cut the end first, then you slice the onion like a fan. So just leave it like this for slices. You don't have to get diced. You want to dice it, then you would follow the same method. So you make the fan a little wider and you can dice it. And that's my trick of slicing onion. So carrot, you can slice it however you want. I'm going to go with the round circle pieces today. Sometimes I do slices instead, but you can do it however you want it. For pepper, the easy way to cut it is turn them around and then slice the bumpy part. And you can throw the rest of the way, just like this. Just slide the bell part. See? You don't have to worry about the seed. Make sure you cut it from the inner part. Otherwise, if you cut it from the shiny part, it's harder for your knife to break into the outer part than the inner part. So there's a lot of ways to cook the glass noodle. I generally follow this method that's been passed down to me from my grandmother. Basically, you boil a pot of water and then you put the noodle in there and you continue to cook it in the boiling water for a minute. Stir it to avoid sticking. After a minute, you turn down the heat to simmering so you can blanch it for another 7 minutes. Before you scoop it up, you can try to taste test one, see if you got the right softness and chewiness. Depending on how you like your noodle, whether you like them a little more al dente with a little more chewiness to it, or you prefer the Olive Garden style where it's soft and gloopy, which is more preferred by older folks. So it's up to you. You cook it longer, you get more softness. So after it's done, pour it out into a strainer and then run cold waters for it. And then get a scissors and start cutting it. So they're easier to eat. If they're too long, they tend to be hard to chew. Don't be afraid to use your hand when it's cooled down enough. usually they're really long, so they're harder to eat, especially like for party. You want to cut them thinner so everyone get a share of the noodles. Transfer them to the collection bowl that we use to hold the spinach. Don't be afraid to put it in the same bowl. And then we want to mix the sauce we prepared earlier into the noodle so it absorbs the flavor. Now the best part, cooking. First I'll use MCT oil to heat up the pan a little bit. The order I like to cook it is I start with the beef first because I'm going to be using the same wok to cook it. Using the beef first would get the flavor onto the wok. Cook it to however you like it. I like to cook it around medium rare. They're pretty thin slices, so they cook pretty fast. Usually cook it until like all the paint color is gone. The meat's already marinated, so they had a lot of flavor in them already. Just kind of stir fry it, and then once you're done, pour it back into the collection bowl. The reason we cook every ingredient, the reason we cook each of the item separately, because everything cooks in a different timeline. So by cooking them individually, we can control how the food get cooked. So after the beef, we'll cook the onion. That's my friend Jenny's favorite part. It's very straightforward. Just cook it until they turn golden brown color. Usually about 2 to 3 minutes, and should be done. They should look a little translucent. After the onion, we'll cook the mushrooms. The wok should be a little dry, so add a little bit of oil and then a pinch of seasoning. It should take about another 2 to 3 minutes. The mushroom should start shrinking a little bit. That's when you know it's done. Repeat the same step for the red pepper and carrot. Add a little pinch of salt, add more cooking oil as needed, and then stir fry for about a minute. Then you can put it into the collection bowl. Next we'll cook 2 eggs. These will be part of the topping we sprinkle on top at the end. After you're done, put them on the chopping board, roll it up, and then slice it like a burrito. This is how you get the thin strip texture. So as a final step, I like to put it all back in the wok and then give it a final toss. Other recipe had called just to serving it cold in the mixing bowl. You can do that too, but I prefer like to eat everything piping hot at the end. So this will give it kind of consistent temperature after you put it in and toss it for like a minute. Just toss it for about 20 seconds. That should give you the consistent temperature across. Now just need to sprinkle the eggs and put toasted sesame on top, and you're done. If you made the video this far, consider subscribing. Like the video if you haven't done so already. I'll see you next time.